I think it was a piece of ice that hit him in the head or something and split him open. So we didn't have the surgical twine or whatever you call it to sew him up. We used dental floss.
Sig Hansen always looked unbreakable. Fans saw a man who commanded storms, defied death, and carried the Northwestern through impossible seas. But away from the spotlight, his life tells a darker story. Heart-stopping medical scares, fractured family ties, and humiliating scandals have followed him like shadows. And now, after years of clawing his way back from the brink, Sig faces the one loss that can't be undone. Sig Hansen was born on April 28, 1966 in Seattle, Washington, into a family with deep Norwegian roots. From an early age, the ocean was in his blood, and the FV Northwestern was his proving ground. By 22, he was already trusted as a relief skipper, filling in for seasoned captains on tough runs. Just 2 years later, at only 24, he officially took command of the Northwestern, a role he's held ever since. The world would meet him years down the line, when Discovery Channel launched Deadliest Catch on April 12, 2005. Fans instantly connected with Sig. His razor-sharp wit, relentless grit, and no-nonsense leadership made him stand out from the very start. But as every fisherman knows, the sea always collects its price. During the filming of Season 12, viewers witnessed a chilling moment. Sig, in the middle of an interview, began clutching his chest. He brushed off the pain, insisting he would push through. But what cameras captured was no ordinary discomfort. It was a heart attack, a widowmaker, one of the deadliest kinds. He had finished his season and was just an hour away from port when the pain struck. Initially thinking it was a muscle strain from sleeping wrong, he soon realized the truth. He was on the brink of death. Doctors said his chances were no better than a coin flip. Somehow, Sig beat the odds and was back the very next season, a living reminder of how thin the line is between life and death out on the Bering Sea. But just 3 months after surviving a heart attack, another storm hit. The conflict reignited. In 2010, Melissa's mother contacted Hansen, asking for help with law school fees. Hansen responded by hiring a mediator, hoping to rebuild his relationship with his daughter through reunification sessions. But the effort quickly collapsed. Hansen claims that Melissa and her mother threatened to go public unless he paid $300,000. He reported the incident to police, calling it extortion. Melissa, however, told authorities she was only standing by her accusations of abuse and that Hansen had failed to provide promised financial support. At one point, her legal team reached a tentative $1.5 million settlement with Hansen, but the deal collapsed when his draft included a clause that could have cost her lawyer their license if details of the settlement became public. One of Hansen's attorneys later said he could not discuss mediation, but confirmed that Hansen considered settling simply to protect his family. But just a year later, Hansen's name was back in the headlines, this time not for anything on the high seas, but for what happened on the streets of Seattle. According to police records, the celebrity crab boat captain was arrested after an ugly altercation with an Uber driver, accused of spitting on him and kicking his car hard enough to leave a dent. It happened in the early hours of the morning. Hansen was riding home with his wife, stepdaughter, and son-in-law after a night of celebrating. They climbed into an Uber headed toward Shoreline, but midway through the ride, the trip had been canceled. So the driver pulled over to let them out. That was when the situation spiraled. According to the police report, Hansen and his son-in-law spit on the driver. One hit his head, another landed on the back of his seat. Hansen then lashed out at the car itself, kicking it and leaving behind a visible dent. Witnesses say his daughter pleaded with him to stop, but her efforts fell on deaf ears. Shaken, the driver pulled away, but not too far. He parked nearby and called the police. When officers arrived minutes later, they found him wiping spit from the side of his face. Within just 2 hours, police were at Hansen's home. His son-in-law answered the door first, clearly intoxicated, and denied anything had happened. Soon after, Hansen himself appeared, also visibly drunk. When asked for his side of the story, he dismissed the incident altogether, saying he had simply taken a ride home and enjoyed Norwegian Independence Day with his family. He clapped his hands as if the matter was closed, but officers weren't finished. Hansen initially resisted when they tried to arrest him, but eventually admitted he might have kicked the car's tire. When told about the dent, he shrugged and said he would pay for the damage. However, officers booked him into King County Jail on charges of misdemeanor assault and property destruction. Prosecutors formally charged him, setting the stage for a court appearance. In the days that followed, Hansen publicly expressed remorse, saying he was embarrassed and took full responsibility for his actions. Police later estimated the damage to the car at around $1,500. Ultimately, Hansen struck a plea deal. He pled guilty to assault, and in exchange, the property damage charge was dropped. But only a few years after surviving his first brush with death, Captain Sig Hansen was hit by another widowmaker heart attack in 2019, this time during the off-season, just as he was preparing to return to Alaska for the start of king crab season. The day began with something routine, a dentist appointment. He was prescribed an antibiotic, and while driving with his wife, things took a terrifying turn. His skin flushed red, his throat tightened, and his hands began to swell. He was having a severe allergic reaction. Desperate, Hansen sped to the hospital, abandoned his truck on the sidewalk, and staggered inside, gasping for air. Doctors later told him he had been just minutes away from death. But surviving the allergic reaction was only the beginning. The EpiPen used to save him set off sharp chest pains. When staff tried to put him through a stress test, the situation escalated. His heart showed signs of failing again, and doctors rushed him straight into the operating room, where a stent was placed to restore blood flow. Even in that fragile state, Hansen's stubborn streak showed. He was caught sneaking off for a cigarette. His nurses and security guards convinced he would risk everything to light up. That time he didn't manage to smoke, though he admitted the temptation was there. The embarrassment of being caught became the push he needed to finally quit for good. What made the incident even more chilling was what Hansen and his wife later realized. The same dentist had given him the same antibiotic a year earlier. Those pills had been sitting at home in a drawer. If he had taken them with him on a trip to Alaska, far from medical help, he might not have survived at all. Hansen came to see it as dodging 3 bullets in a single day, an allergic reaction, a heart attack, and a near miss with a bottle of pills that could have finished him. True to his relentless nature, he was back aboard his boat within days, heading for Dutch Harbor with his daughter Mandy by his side. She helped prepare the vessel and carried more responsibility on deck, knowing her father's health demanded caution. On blood thinners and more easily fatigued, Hansen had to accept her growing role in the family legacy. But just as he steadied himself from one crisis, another storm hit his family. Not long after his own medical scare, his wife June received devastating news. While Hansen was at sea filming season 15, June called him a rare interruption, one that immediately signaled an emergency. When he returned to the cameras, his face told the story. Doctors had found cancer in the area around her neck. The uncertainty was crushing. Hansen abandoned the expedition, explaining that nothing, no catch, no season, mattered more than his wife's health. For once, the sea could wait. June's treatment began immediately, and within 2 months, doctors declared her cancer-free. Relief washed over the family. A stark reminder of how fragile life is and how quickly everything can change. But now, Sig finds himself facing a battle he can't outmaneuver, the relentless weight of time. In a recent interview, he confessed that age is beginning to take its toll, pushing him to confront his future in the industry and what truly matters beyond the wheelhouse. For years, Sig has been the unshakable face of Deadliest Catch, a leader who not only commanded the Northwestern but also acted as a mentor and father figure to his crew. Yet every story eventually reaches its final chapter. While he insists he still has a few more years left, he acknowledges that the thought of retirement often lingers, especially as the dangers of the sea grow harder to ignore. The risks have always been there, but these days they cut deeper. When battling storms that sent waves towering 50 feet high, Sig found himself gripped by fear in ways he hadn't experienced before. Once, he saw every storm as a challenge to conquer. Now he admits that mortality weighs on his mind, and the sense of invincibility that fueled his younger years has begun to fade. So what do you think about Sig Hansen? Does his time continue on board, or would it end altogether? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if you liked this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for further updates, and click the next video on screen for another interesting story.